I'm okay with that because I don't actually care. I care about the effect that monsters have on the world. I don't actually care about the monsters themselves. I really don't. I don't need to see cities being destroyed. I don't need to see, like, anything like that. Like, I honestly, I don't care about Godzilla movies. I like Pacific Rim because it takes all of that and then it just says, okay, we're going to ignore all of that stuff. All the cities getting destroyed, all that, that's going to be tangential to the emotional journey of our leads. That is why I like Pacific Rim. Because it's a really cool backdrop, like giant monsters coming out of the Pacific Ocean and destroying everything is a great backdrop for a story of human courage in the face of great odds, how we all have to work together to save the world, and why when we stand united we can do anything. Like, the messages of Pacific Rim are awesome, and the monsters are just kind of there.
Then you probably really would have liked this latest Godzilla movie, because that's kind of what it was.
Okay, well maybe I'll give it a
Very
shot.
little monster fighting. There's about maybe a good half hour of monster fighting, and most of the movie is really about a father and son having to deal with, you know, the loss of the mother.
Maybe, I guess. I've not seen anything about this movie that makes me think it's going to hit my happy place of character development.
Oh no, because everything they're doing to advertise it is basically giant monster.
Exactly. So everything they're doing to advertise it makes me go like, okay, that's nice. I will put this in the category with the Transformer movies of things I don't get why everyone likes. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Well, I like the Transformer movies because I was raised on Transformers.
I do find it funny that my favorite movie is Pacific Rim, which is giant robots fighting giant sea monsters. But I don't actually like Transformers or Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
I do find that funny. But I really, it's all down to how they do it, and they do it so well, Patrick. It's such a good movie.
I'm not our movie. I love Pacific Rim. I watch it all the time when it comes on HBO, like, and I'm flipping through channels.
I bought a copy of it, which is not something I do very often anymore, but I legitimately own my own beautiful DVD copy of Pacific Rim. I also have a movie poster of Pacific Rim, and if you can see on my wall, some fan art of Mako Mori, just framed on my wall. I really like this movie. I really like this movie. I don't know if we got that from all the times I brought it up, but I really like Pacific Rim.
Go to Godzilla, and maybe you'll have framed fan art of Aaron Taylor Johnson. Or is that his name? I think it is.
Is there a strong female character with whom I can emotionally bond, who has a role as something other than a love interest or maternal figure?
No. Unfortunately, the main female character in this movie is played by Elizabeth Olsen, and she is Aaron Taylor Johnson's wife and mother of his child, and she pretty much spends most of the movie wondering if her husband is going to come home alive throughout all this monster fighting.
There's a strong probability I will not actually like this movie, Patrick.
Probably.
Oh.
But it was a cool movie.
I believe you.
I enjoyed watching it.
Who had seen it?
I enjoyed watching it with a crowd of people who were obviously Godzilla fans because they cheered at, like, Godzilla-ish moments.
I don't know what it is.
When we first see him in full view, like, everyone in the theater was like, yeah! And then when he breathes atomic fire, everyone was also like, yeah!
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. They're classic movies, and
I like classic movies. I just like classic, like, depressing foreign movies.
Not
About
fun movies about giant monsters.
surprisingly not, no.
Oh, you know what? There is a strong female character you can relate to, because one of the monsters he fights is female. There you go. You can root for one of the monsters.
I usually end up rooting for the monsters in these movies. Like, I definitely watched Cloverfield and was like, please just let the monster win. All of these people are terrible, and I hate them. Congratulations, you've made Lizzie Kaplan unlikable. Good job. That took effort. I feel like J.J. Abrams is probably partially to blame for why I hate monster movies. Because I saw both Cloverfield and Super 8 in theaters and just went, eh. Eh.
I can understand your hatred of Cloverfield, but Super 8, Super 8 I dug, because it was Spielbergian. It had a very E.T. Goonies feel to it.
I know, I hate E.T. and the Goonies. I do! They're terrible!
Do you not have a soul?
Arguably.
I mean, how can you hate E.T.?
It's horrible.
Da, 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 da. They flew across the moon.
It sucks.
Good,
Talking
Debbie.
about how my childhood was slightly unusual, right? Well, part of that means that I grew up watching depressing foreign films, and I didn't watch movies like E.T. or Goonies or Godzilla movies until I was well old enough to have developed a critical faculty. Which means that the first time I saw Goonies, I literally was sitting there going, what the crap is wrong with everyone that this is their favorite movie? This is stupid. And I was watching E.T. going, I'm sorry, the government is actually having an incredibly reasonable reaction to this. This is the reaction I would like the government to have. I am 100% on the side of the grown-ups in this movie, because heck yes, I want the government to react this way if an unknown creature is discovered in a suburban dwelling. Yeah.
It's like a little retard child. Not if it's like something. If it's something like, a xenomorph, but then yeah, I want government agents everywhere. But if it's a little like,
you know what alien movies I saw as a kid? I saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So yeah, I'm okay with us using quarantine procedure upon finding something weird. Just saying.
And the Goonies, there's a simple reason. I think I understand actually why you don't like the Goonies if you saw it later in life, is because the Goonies is the ultimate childhood movie. Every kid wishes they could go on like a quest to find like hidden treasure, and that's totally like a kid adventure movie. So I understand actually why you wouldn't like that, having discovered it later in life.
I watched it in college.
Yeah, that's not the time to watch the Goonies.
I like The Sandlot. That's a good movie. I appreciate that movie. I dislike the fact that it has literally one female character and she's his mom. Oh no, sorry, two. The female characters are his mother and the over-sexualized lifeguard who is kissed without her consent. Yeah. But I actually really like that movie. So, I can find things wrong with anything.
You like The Sandlot, but not the Goonies.
I saw The Sandlot when I was 8.
Okay, see, yeah, because that's a movie that's like you watch and you're supposed to think, oh yeah, that's what I remember childhood. I remember when life was fun and.
But also, here's the thing. In The Sandlot, the bad guy is the fear of the unknown. Like, literally, the bad guy is just the fear of consequences, the fear of the unknown. And so that works a lot better for me now as an adult than whatever the crap is going on in the Goonies. I'm just saying, The Sandlot holds up a lot better from childhood to adulthood than the Goonies does.
They're trying to find One-Eyed Willie's treasure so they can save their homes. And they're pursued by a gang of criminals who are also looking for the treasure, who happen to have a super strong, mentally handicapped, deformed guy locked up in a freezer.
I'm just saying that The Sandlot holds up a lot better as an adult than Goonies does. Like, a lot better.
Goonies never say die.
Actually, my favorite movie as a child, and this is true, is Chariots of Fire. Chariots of Fire.
Okay, wow.
Drama about the 1924 Olympics.
That's your favorite movie as a child.
I watched that movie over and over again. And you know what my mom got me for my birthday this year? She got me a DVD of Chariots of Fire. Because my parents love me. I mean, like, all my favorite movies are like that. Like, well, I mean, and there were some that I guess were more mass appeal-ish, but, like, Chariots of Fire, A League of Their Own was one of my all-time favorite movies as a kid. I just didn't watch a lot of... Oh, I love Sister Act. Watched a lot of Mr. Holland's Opus and Finding Forrester. Basically, I did not watch a lot of media that was designed for children.
I'm like, who watches Mr. Holland's Opus as a child? Like...
We also watched a lot of Shakespeare adaptations. So, like...
Okay. This is like... This is a lot. This is explaining so much.
I'm just saying that I was the only 7-year-old I knew who had an opinion on the various versions of Midsummer Night's Dream.
Lost her.
Oh,
we got Dan.
Oh, good. Now you can talk about the movie with someone.
Hello. I apologize for being a little late. For some reason, I just now got the email, so...
It's okay. We started late, and I've been finding out lots of interesting things about Debbi. Like, that she had no childhood, apparently, because she doesn't like the Goonies. Let me just say that.
Oh.
It's a terrible movie.
Or E.T.
Oh, much worse. Hate E.T. The Goonies I just kind of don't like. E.T. I actively hate.
E.T. scared the crap out of me as a kid whenever he was in the cornfield and he comes across E.T., but now I like it.
When I saw it as a kid, my grandmother took me to see that in theaters, and I kept, like, leaving the theater. It was like this crazy sort of musical chairs where we kept going out, coming back in, going out, coming back in, because I kept getting so terrified of it.
It was a scary movie for kids.
See, I do have to say that I did kind of skip that stage, like the get scared by movies stage, since I definitely remember that when I was 9, my favorite movie was Terminator 2.
Yeah, but Terminator 2 is not necessarily scary, I don't think. Like, the movies that really scared me as a kid were Alien and Fire in the Sky. Like, those movies terrified me when I was younger.
Alien was pretty scary. And I remember being really, really terrified because of a National Geographic film about freak weather patterns.
Well, I remember Fire in the Sky just scared me because I lived out in the country and you had to drive down roads that looked a lot like the roads from that movie to get to my aunt and uncle's house, and it just was not very pleasant. So
yeah, I guess you're legitimately terrified of being sucked up into an alien vessel and being covered in whatever the hell the weird cellophane shit they covered.
It wasn't until many years later, but Signs. That kind of freaked me out whenever there's the whole scene when he's out in the field at night and you see the leg in the field or whatever. They grow corn. Just throwing that out there. My aunt and uncle.
Ah. Well, I was like, yes, people do grow corn.
No, my aunt and uncle are farmers and they grow corn and soybeans. So a lot of times at night, I would not be outside right after that movie came out.
No, Children of the Corn. How did that hit you?
I've never actually seen that movie.
It's okay.
I have a feeling that it would probably not be good.
Probably not, no.
Well, maybe now it probably wouldn't be that bad, but maybe if I was a lot younger, I would have been really freaked out about it. But
well, I do find it really interesting how, like, what you're exposed to as a kid totally shapes the movies that scare you. Like, again, I was terrified by that National Geographic thing on freak weather patterns. Well, yeah, that actually makes perfect sense when you understand that I grew up in a town, as I was growing up, when I was 3, was devastated by the perfect storm.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's my hometown. And so, like, I remember that storm. I remember seeing a wave crash over a house, and the house was at the top of a 25-foot retaining wall, and the house itself was about 25 feet tall, which means that it was a 50-foot wave. I remember seeing that. And so I think it's pretty reasonable that as a child, the scariest thing I ever saw was a movie about natural disasters.
See, growing up in Tornado Alley, movies like Twister never really bothered me that much. But I mean, Twister is not really a good example. But like, I don't know, Tornado Sirens freaked me out for a long time as a kid. But that's just because they sound horrifying. So.
I mean, it's funny.
To me, I'm scared of the unseen. So anything that has stuff coming out of the darkness and that tiny things. Child's Play, I remember, terrified me. But that's because I had a My Buddy doll.
No, but that makes sense, Patrick, because you grew up in the city.
Yeah.
You grew up in a place where if something comes out of the dark towards you, it's probably not going to end well.
After we saw the movie last night, my friends and I had the general consensus that if anything ever goes down, we're basically screwed here. Like, LA is the first place that goes down. So
pretty much.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Driving to Canada.
Well, I knew I was doomed a while ago because I read, which I happen to have right here. Good old. I'll be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, big cities. Shit happens. We're all dead.
I live right on the edge of farm country and the mountains, so I actually think I'm going to be fine.
You're going to live.
Of course, the downside is that I do live in an alluvial floodplain. Well, I live on the edge. I live up in the hills, so I wouldn't be in direct path, but I do live in between 2 massive volcanoes. So there is that.
We're very positive people, aren't we? We're just like, how are we going to die?
Okay.
Well, you're going to drown and burn in a volcano. We're going to be crushed by monsters or eaten by the living dead.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get crushed by monsters. There's no.
Speaking of crushed by monsters.
Well, I don't know. How close are you to a nuclear reactor? Because maybe they'll come.
Not very. However,
did both of you see Godzilla?
I saw it.
I saw it.
I didn't see it.
Debbie has no interest in seeing it.
Not my thing.
I kind of enjoyed the shit out of this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I went in with kind of like managed expectations, and that's just been the phrase that I continuously used since I left the movie theater. Is that I thoroughly enjoyed the shit out of Godzilla. I liked it a lot. So.
Despite a few logic problems, I enjoyed the movie as well.
I thought
so much.
What?
Why? What's likable about it?
Like for me, I was thinking about it, and there's kind of like what part of the movie would you say the airport scene is, Patrick? Kind of the midpoint?
Yeah, I'd say it's about the midpoint. Yeah, we've got both of the giant monsters on the loose. Godzilla's coming to take him down. Yeah.
So there's a scene around the midpoint where Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is trying to get back to San Francisco, and he gets dropped at the Honolulu airport. And I remember sitting there watching this scene happen, and it was like to me, it was like the perfect build-up of suspense in the fact that, like, you knew something was going to happen, and they did such a good job of putting it off and putting it off and putting it off that when it was finally revealed in, like, a super cool way, it was totally worth it. And I thought that the action was top-notch in this movie. Like, the final fights with the other two monsters were pretty cool. I enjoyed them. But I think it was just like the suspense. Like, they did a really good job of building up the suspense and the monsters so that because they don't do the Pacific Rim thing where, like, every 30 minutes there's a giant robot fighting a giant monster. Like, even in the airport scene, the monster shows up, they show Godzilla arrive, and then the first thing they do after that is cut away, and you don't see any of that actual fight. You see, like, bits and pieces on news afterward, but they don't focus on it. So it, like, makes the end fight even more of a spectacle, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I will say that this director is a master of the calm and terror.
Yeah.
Because there were constantly those moments of, like, oh, there's like this calm moment, and then bah!
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was the one scene that stuck out to me the most was when Elizabeth Olsen's character was watching like a guy parachuting down, and it's like she's kind of just staring at him, and it's kind of calm and cute, and then, oh, well, yeah, but the plane he ejected out of is now spiraling towards the building.
I will say, to get into the character stuff, I was not really blown away by anyone in particular. Everybody they acted in a solid fashion, but nobody was particularly mind-blowing. Aaron Taylor Johnson was okay. Bryan Cranston was good. Ken Watanabe was good. Huh?
Bryan Cranston's always good.
Yeah. I was hoping that you would have seen it, Debbie, so that we could talk about it a little bit more detail. But I actually did not like Elizabeth Olsen's character that much in this movie, and not in any sense that she had any, like, real flaws, but I just don't feel like she really served a purpose except to be in danger all the time.
Yeah.
Then, like, at the very end, you're just supposed to feel happy about them getting back together. And I was just kind of like, I wish she would have had something going on her own, but she really doesn't have a storyline at all.
No. Elizabeth Olsen, I'm pretty sure, was cast in this movie because she has very big eyes.
Yeah.
That's it. They needed someone who can constantly stare wide-eyed at these horrific things.
There's also another problem that I have with it in this movie is that there is now implied nerd incest in the fact that they are going to be brother and sister in the Avengers 2.
That's exactly what I was thinking. This entire movie.
That's not even the first case this year.
It isn't? What's the other one?
Ansel Elgort and...
oh, yeah, that's right. And
they brother and sister in Divergent, and they've love interest in The Fault in Our Stars.
I forgot about that one. I didn't see Divergent, though, so...
Yeah.
It was good. I like it. But, again, that's much more my thing than this movie. One of the reasons I didn't want to see this movie was because I was looking at it, and basically all I could tell from the trailers was that Godzilla smushes stuff, and Elizabeth Olsen screams. And I kind of was waiting to hear if she did anything else, but I'm really not interested in watching a movie where the only female character exists solely to give the male characters a sense of urgency.
Well,
I don't want that, and I don't like it.
no. And I agree with you, because that's what she really is. She is the reason that Aaron Taylor Johnson is trying to get back so quickly.
Yeah.
She is actually, and this is what I was going to say, is that there are actually other female characters in the movie that I feel like have bigger roles than her, even. And namely, it's the scientist that works with Ken Watanabe's character. Elizabeth Olsen, like, one of the main reasons that I don't like Elizabeth Olsen's character in it is just because it's not even that she doesn't do anything, it's just that she's barely in it. I mean, like, if you were to time the amount of minutes that she's actually in the movie, it's got to be less than 15. Like, it's got to be maybe 10 at the most, I would say.
But if they're gonna, like...
I don't know if you feel the same way, Patrick, but I feel like she was just non-existent, basically.
Would you actually want her to be more of the movie if they're not going to give her a storyline and they're not going to do anything with her?
No, I mean, like, if she's just going to be a wet rag, basically, or a goal, then no. And I was thinking about this earlier in, like, preparation for the discussion. It's like, I guess in a certain way, like, to put her in a situation, like The Day After Tomorrow is the situation I was thinking about, right? Where in The Day After Tomorrow, Dennis Quaid's wife has that storyline where she sticks around with the terminally ill patient, and that seems like a hokey action movie thing to do. Whereas in this one, Elizabeth Olsen just stays because she's doing her job, and then in the course of doing her job, Godzilla shows up and she's stuck in the city trying to stay alive. You don't see a lot of that. You see just bits and pieces of, oh, hey, she's geographically close to the giant monsters, but she's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, like, I wouldn't want to see more of her if she didn't serve a purpose, but at the same time, I wonder if they avoided it because giving her a purpose felt arbitrary. You know? Like, giving her the terminally ill patient would have seemed, like, shoehorned in. I don't know. That was just what I was thinking.
I think that is a failure on the part of the writers, a failure of imagination largely. Because her options aren't just arbitrary purpose or nothing, she's a unlockable trophy at the end of the level. It's more like, you should have the imagination as a writer to be able to say, like, we're going to tell a story about a woman who's never had to fight for her survival before, dealing in this extreme circumstance, and then tie that into the larger theme of the movie, which has to do with survival and what are the costs of survival. That would be an interesting arc. I mean, showing this woman who is effectively a pampered upper middle class suburban housewife, I assume, just based on having ever seen a movie.
Sort of it. I mean, to go back to Day After Tomorrow, she is a practicing nurse at a hospital, so it's...
But still, like, showing her having to deal with that out in the open. Like, being a nurse, those are controlled circumstances. Yes, you have to deal with emergencies and medical issues, but they're still controlled circumstances. Dealing with it out in the open is really different. And dealing with it in a situation where the people you meet may or may not be hostile, and in an environment that is actively trying to hurt you, that seems like a much more interesting storyline. And it has the potential for her to have a character arc.
Yeah, I think also, like, part of it, I'm not defending, I'm just speculating, is, like, the end sequence is, I think, in real time supposed to take place fairly quickly. Like, over the course of an evening, basically. Not even an evening, I don't think. But I don't really know. So, I mean, it is definitely still, like, they probably just couldn't think of anything for her to do. And so they just didn't have her do anything.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Like, it just felt like a wasted opportunity in a lot of ways. Like, because the other... Honestly, the only other female characters that I remember were the scientist and one female character on the aircraft carrier that's helping them track the monsters.
Yeah. Oh, and the mom, like at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, the mom at the very beginning. Yeah, Bryan Cranston. But yeah, I mean,
Elizabeth Olsen was really only there because we needed to give Aaron Taylor Johnson's character something like, so when he's in danger, it's like, oh, but he has a family, his wife, and he has his son, and that's it. That's all she was there for.
yeah.
So that if this guy dies, his wife and son will be sad.
Mm-hmm.
Not my favorite thing ever. I mean, at the very least, I appreciate, like, comparing this to another movie where there is a wife who is clearly just there for, like, feelings. World War Z. Once you get through the beginning of the movie, Muriel Enos spends the entire rest of the movie on that aircraft carrier until the part where she's getting shipped away. But even then, she has an emotional arc. It's not necessarily that she's doing anything. Her emotional arc has to do with the fact that she can't do anything. She has 3 kids now. You know, they've picked up an extra kid, and she is, her emotional arc has to do with the fact that she can't do anything, and if her husband fails to perform, her life is going to be threatened. And so that actually causes a really interesting emotional arc for her character, like trying to do something but being incapable of it. And so in a weird way, you can turn the inaction into a strong character moment. But I think in this case, the writers just didn't know what to do with it, but they needed Aaron Taylor Johnson to have a trophy if he wins.
Yeah. I mean, as lame as it is, those were his stakes. Like, she didn't leave the city in time, so if the bomb goes off in the end, she'll be killed. And so that's really all it is to him. I mean, ultimately...
Well, she didn't leave the city also because he said, like, I will be at the hospital.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I was disappointed in that. I was really sad, Debbie. I thought we were going to be on the same side about it.
I think we are on the same side about it. I just didn't watch the movie.
You just didn't see the movie.
Yeah.
I think we're disagreeing, Dan.
But yeah, other than that, like, I really thought that the movie overall was well done. Like, I thought that the build-up of the monsters was very, very cool. And I do really like, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine on Facebook about this. I like the fact that Godzilla shows up at the Honolulu airport, but you don't actually see that fight. Like, they save the real fight for the end of the movie, and then you're like, this is amazing. Like, it was awesome. And it also makes the fight between Zod and Superman look like child's play. So that was...
I think we've all agreed that the fight between Zod and Superman was terrible and should stop.
And to be fair, I think that this movie went out of its way to avoid that criticism by making sure that San Francisco was evacuated for the most part by the time the monsters showed up. So they didn't have to...
Except for one guy who's in his office at his computer for some reason.
Yeah.
Decided to show, like...
Whenever the one flies by the building and all those people are still in their offices, it's like, that is the worst effing job ever. Like, there are giant monsters on their way to San Francisco, and your boss made you stick around.
I don't know. That seems like dedication. That seems like something I'd put down on a resume. Like,
yeah.
During the giant monster attack in San Francisco, I stayed at my data entry job.
Yeah.
Patrick, if I read that on your resume and I was someone in charge of hiring you, I would not hire you.
Why not?
Man, this guy's an idiot.
This guy has a death wish.
I'm a loyal idiot. I stay with the company even while giant monsters are attacking the city.
I want someone who has enough brain cells to rub together to know that he should quit his job. If that happens. I want someone with enough common sense. Because otherwise, at your crummy data entry job that you're now trying to get because your previous one was demolished during the giant monster attack, as your boss, I would be looking at this going, I don't trust him with data entry. I don't trust that this person is smart enough to do data entry.
You don't trust the guy who's so focused that even as a giant mutated insect thing flies by the building, he's still sitting at his desk?
No, I don't trust him. I do not trust that he will notice anything ever. I do not trust that he will notice a problem in his data entry and then seek to correct it. I'm pretty sure he's dead inside. Like, I would not hire that guy. I would never hire that guy.
Okay. Take a little white out, put that there. You just survived the monster attack on San Francisco.
Yeah, don't write ignored the monster attack.
Yeah.
Because we've seen actually, well, I mean, that is the whole conceit of Donna's character on Doctor Who, especially when we first meet her, is that Donna misses everything. And not because she's too, like, focused on her job, because she's just so self-involved. When we first meet Donna, the Doctor, she's like, there are aliens? And he's like, yeah, don't you remember, like, that time that the aliens did this, and that time that aliens attacked this, and, like, he lists off, like, 5 different alien attacks in the past 2 years, and she just rattles off reasons why she didn't hear about it. And it works really well for a character, but it is a comedic trope. Feel the need to point out.
Oops, that was the wrong button.
But yeah, Dan, we were talking before you got here about why I didn't go see Godzilla, and part of it is because I didn't really want to watch Elizabeth Olsen screaming, but part of it also has to do with the fact that just in general, I never got into Godzilla movies because I never felt like they had much to offer me in terms of character development. And that the reason I like Pacific Rim so much has to do with the fact that, yeah, there are all these fight scenes and there's all this action and blah, 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 but fundamentally it's about the emotional arcs of characters.
Yeah, I will say that this one doesn't have a whole lot of that. Like, you know, early on when Aaron Taylor Johnson, like, he doesn't believe Bryan Cranston. He just thinks he's crazy and should let all this stuff go. And then whenever he sees the first, what do they call them, Patrick? I can't remember what they're
Mutos, I believe is what they call
or something like that.
Insect creatures.
Yeah, but basically that's the only real character development that he has, is feeling sad that he didn't actually believe his dad, and then feeling determined to get home or try and stop the monsters or whatever. But yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot of character work in this movie at all.
And I think one of the other reasons why I find Pacific Rim compelling, why I find stories like Neon Genesis Evangelion compelling, because they are, on the surface, pretty similar, has to do with world building.
Mm-hmm.
The initial attack is not as interesting to me as is the world built on the idea that we are being attacked constantly. Sort of like why Attack on Titan is such an interesting anime. And also a really kind of interesting mesh of stuff, since the giant monsters do look like people. But,
though, like, one of the things that I did like about this movie, it's not character development necessarily, but the one thing that I did kind of like about it was that it was told in a way that I felt like it made the human perspective seem real.
mm-hmm.
Like, it made it seem like all of this stuff is happening and there's not really a whole lot we can do to control it, and it made the perspective seem small in comparison to these monsters. Where with Pacific Rim, you have giant robots that can fight the giant monsters, and so they feel almost equal. And so the control over the situation, this is just how I felt watching it. So just like the power dynamic between what was happening to us felt much more chaotic in Godzilla, I thought.
I can entirely believe that. I think another aspect of it has to do with, I like stories that are, and I mean, Pacific Rim does explore this, though it's not actually its focus. I just watched Snowpiercer, where this was totally the focus. It has to do with how do we as a species deal with the idea of our own demise.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, and what I like about certain monster movies, very specific ones, is that they force us to reckon with the idea of, what if we aren't on top? What if we are not actually the pinnacle of evolution or the top of the food chain or whatever? What if we have a predator and we are being wiped out? How do we as humans deal with the concept of survival, and at what point is survival worth the cost?
Yeah.
That I find
I
fascinating.
didn't really got that sense from this movie, personally. I think, to me, it was much more, it was put out there that there are bad monsters and there are good monsters, and for whatever odd reason, Godzilla is not concerned with humanity at all. Like, I don't know. That was just how I took it.
That was the one part of the movie I'm kind of like, I really didn't like. Because at the end, he just gets up and just doesn't give a shit about any of the humans that are around him. And just walks back to the ocean, goes back into the ocean, and, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, and I think it has to do with the idea of, you know, the early kaiju movies, the very, very early ones. What I find interesting about them, and what I actually kind of like about them, is the fact that they're effectively a trauma narrative. They are a way for Japanese culture to deal with the trauma of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And I find that to be compelling when you look at those movies through the lens of, this is a culture trying to reckon with something that has happened, and they're doing it, they're giant cheesy monsters, and what's happening? But when the underpinning is something that grippingly emotional, and this is the framework in which we're choosing to deal with it, I find that really, really compelling. These movies, like the modern Godzilla movies in general, and just Americanized interpretations of that, I find to be less compelling because they don't have that underpinning. They don't have that, this is why we care. This is why this story is being told. It's more just sort of like, this story is being told because it's cool. Which is fine. I like cool stories. But I'm more interested in stories that are deeply and meaningfully exploring a narrative of trauma. Because I'm me.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, like, I mean, there's some stuff in there that could probably be interpreted, but I don't think that that's what they were going for by any stretch. Like, they didn't go out to make this movie to make a statement about anything. So.
But I think the original movies were making
a bit of a global warming, climate change type of deal in it.
Yeah.
Did it? I don't really remember that part.
Climate change has yet to be enough of like a change to our worldview to be what I would constitute as a trauma.
I mean, I'm like saying, like, man affects the world, and the world, sends shit back, like, basically, because they basically said Godzilla was awoken because of a nuclear sub, these other things were awoken because we were fucking around with nuclear stuff. Everything that bad had happened, it's because we did something to get these monsters to notice us.
Because even at the flying one, the not Mothra, which I'm just going to call it Mothra from now on because that's what it was. The entire reason that it's woken in the beginning of the movie is because of the mining corporation that sets up all that scaffolding and stuff, and then it collapses into the cavern with it.
So it's like aliens.
A little bit, yeah.
But I guess, I mean, for the record, whenever you start talking about, like, it's about our effect on the world, I think Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park, to me, is the movie that is about the ways in which we fundamentally affect the world and the ways in which we probably shouldn't.
There was a scene in this movie actually where they did like a similar helicopter shot over the the jungle mountains, and I just immediately, as soon as I saw that, I started just going dun 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 dun.
My friend that I went to go see the movie with, as soon as that shot happened, I just leaned over to him and went, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
I'm glad we're all in agreement on this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, big giant, prehistoric monsters. Yeah.
Did you guys see the Cracked article about the seriously disturbing things that you can extrapolate from Jurassic Park? It's a good video.
I don't think I did.
It is worth it. It's After Hours, I think.
Oh. Maybe I just haven't seen the latest.
It's like a week old, so.
Oh, you know what? I probably just haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
You should do that.
I should, because I love After Hours.
After Hours is amazing.
Yes.
We all aspire to be After Hours.
Pretty much, we are After Hours, except we're not.
And pretty much. Except we're more diverse when Elizabeth's here.
Yeah. See, I'm annoyed Elizabeth is not here, because we're talking Godzilla movies, and our one Japanese member is not here.
She's biracial.
Well, she's more Japanese than me, than any of us. I'm just saying it would be nice to have, like...
Yeah, I would be curious. I'm curious whether or not she even saw the movies growing up.
I doubt it. She's having fun at Disneyland.
Yeah. Which, again, is...
She's hanging out with Walt's cryogenic head.
Dang it, Elizabeth, why do you keep getting to go to Disneyland?
Yeah, I can't get pissed off because, like, I want to go to Disneyland.
I want to go to Disneyland. I'm getting pissed off. Yeah.
So in its first weekend, Godzilla is on track to make almost half of Amazing Spider-Man's total domestic gross so far.
Nice.
Worldwide, Spider-Man 2 has made $600 million, but here it's made $172 million.
Which is still not shabby.
No.
Released for what, like 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I would assume that...
No, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would assume that... oh my gosh, I totally forgot what I was even going to say. Never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, worldwide right now, the estimate for Godzilla is $196 million. Oh, I was going to say I would assume that the production budget on Spider-Man 2 was probably like around $200 million, so...
Yeah, that seems about right.
Probably.
Godzilla has already made its money back.
Oh, good. That's nice.
The production budget on Box Office Mojo is listed as $160 million.
We can get a sequel. Godzilla versus other giant monster.
According to Film Drunk, it's already happening, so, I mean, not really surprised, but...
Which classic Godzilla monster should they bring back for him to fight?
I have no strong opinion on this.
Personally, I'd like to see him fight King Ghidorah again.
That would be cool.
A modern CGI King Ghidorah would be awesome.
Is there a crab? Can you fight a crab? Giant lobster.
Well, a couple of giant crab-type creatures.
You should fight giant crabs. Crabs are terrifying, so are lobsters. Just saying.
I was going to say he could fight King Kong, but this version of Godzilla is way bigger than King Kong, so...
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, did you see the thing about how the strong theory that Coconut crabs are what happened to Amelia Earhart's body.
No.
I could believe that. I saw that one picture of a coconut crab hanging on to like a trash can.
It's the
It's
size
like
of the
the
trash
size
can.
of the can. I'm like, I never want to go there.
They eat cats.
Whatever that thing is, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, when given the opportunity, they eat cats. So basically, it says that her plane crashed. She did an emergency water landing, was pretty badly injured, swam up on shore, and then the island where they found the bone fragments that are almost certainly hers, they haven't actually found enough to constitute an entire skeleton, and people are pretty sure that's because the crabs, which completely overrun this island for the record, this island where they think they found her skeleton is totally infested with them. They're pretty sure that they ate her and took parts of her back to their holes.
Ugh.
So yes, I think Godzilla should fight a giant coconut crab because those things are effing terrifying.
See, in the movie they showed the military using nuclear bombs to try and kill Godzilla. No, use the nuclear bombs to kill that island of giant crabs. That is what we need to do.
Also, there's an island in Indonesia where there are so many snakes that you literally can't walk on the ground. The ground is snakes.
I'm okay with snakes because they have a face that looks similar to humans. They have something that I can recognize.
They're all poisonous.
It's the animals that I look at that I can see nothing at. Nothing of myself in that I hate. Crabs, insects, anything that has eyes on stalks, I do not like.
Just in general, insects and creatures are terrifying, but just in general, I find any congregation of creatures to be terrifying. Like, anytime there's a ton of them in one place, a ton of one kind of creature in one place, that I find terrifying. Unless it's, like, kittens.
Like one mouse is okay, but like when they show those barns that are like overrun by mice, you'd be terrified of that.
Exactly. Like, one rat, whatever. 20 rats, ha!
So you would never go into the New York City subway system.
Pretty much, yeah.
One rat, fine. 20 rats crawling all over the tracks.
Don't like it. Yeah, I'm honestly like...
20 rats the size of this.
Specifically, though, Patrick, it's not actually the number, it's the congregation. It has to do with, like, how close they are to each other, how many of them I can see at once, and how many of them are looking at me.
See, I remember I saw about 3 or 4, but they were crawling all over each other, and they were darting around in and out of this hole. Like, someone had dug up a tree on the sidewalk, and they just like made a nest out of the whole root system of the tree, so they were running all over the place.
I don't know if that would bother me so much, but like, if I saw 10 rats basically all chilling within the same, like, 2 feet of each other, that'd freak the crap out of me. I don't like it. No.
We've got from crossover appeal to what scares us.
I just find this congregation of animals that are not commonly accepted as pets, I find it unnerving. Like, cute, fluffy animals? Yes, you may have several of them. I'm okay if you see a lot of cows, or a lot of... Okay, actually, no, I've been watching Hannibal, so I'm not okay if I see a lot of pigs. Not okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 100% not okay.
This past week's episode was the first episode in a while where I physically cringed while watching it, so...
I was actively nauseous for most of the episode.
Yep. Well played.
I still have it on my DVR. I haven't watched it yet. I fell behind.
It's, gross.
Yeah. Pretty dark episode.
I think we're done since we're starting to talk about Hannibal instead of Godzilla.
Well, Hannibal's almost done for the season.
And we will actually do a good long TV episode, not next week, because next week is X-Men, but the week after that. We'll do a big TV show. What we saw this past season, what new shows are coming on the air, what shows are going off the air that we're happy to see go. All of that good stuff.
Agent Carter.
Yeah.
I'm sad about Raising Hope. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that later.
Collect your emotions, and we'll talk about that.
And Parks and Rec.
Hmm?
Community and Parks and Rec also.
Yeah.
We will
Community.
discuss all of that week
Yeah.
after next.
Okay.
Yeah. Next week I'm going to take Debbie's spot in the discussion, as I will not be seeing X-Men. So.
That's fine. I almost don't want to
Thank
see
you.
it. But
I will be seeing X-Men, and I will have opinions. So.
I'm going to see it, and I'm probably not going to enjoy it.
I
Trailers
Don't-
have me worried.
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm heartbroken.
I really don't know. I think I'm either going to really like it, or I'm going to hate it with the fire of 1,000 suns. Because it really doesn't look like this is going to inspire, like, emotions in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really have no idea what I'm going to think of it, which is strange, because normally I have a pretty good idea going in if I'm going to like something or not.
I'm just worried. We'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let us hope we will either be surprised or, hey, if it sucks, maybe Marvel can finally get the X-Men rights back.
Yeah.
So that is next week. See everybody then.
Bye!